One of the foundations of the wisdom of Kabbalah deals with transforming our reactive nature and connecting to a more elevated nature, proactive energy inside of us. One of the greatest Kabbalists of all times, Rav Ashlag, calls in one of his writings this transformation a process of developing or connecting with a second nature in us. Now, we live our lives so robotically, and only when you begin to recognize how predictable your reaction to everything is, you can begin changing it. Before even delving into the important aspects of our lives, relationships, business, health, which are often controlled by our reactive nature 99% of the time, let's take a moment to look into something less significant and understand what goes in our brain physically. Maybe then we'll be able to begin comprehending how robotic our system can be before undergoing transformation and maybe reclaiming the power of our free will. Let's say that you're walking into the kitchen and you see a spider. How does it get into activating your reaction? It can be a fear, it can be any way that you react to this spider. Information travels to the eye physically. It's being converted in a very specific part of the eye called the retina. And from this part of the eye, the retina, through the optic nerve to another part of the brain, the thalamus, from there to the back of the brain to your visual cortex. Now, all of this happens in a split of a second without us have any idea of what is really going on. And it continues because the visual cortex will connect to another part of your brain called the amygdala, because the spider seemed to be a threat. Something maybe is off here. I might feel in danger. The amygdala helps detect a threat. This is what it does. Now, detecting a threat in this case can be visual. In other cases in our life, not maybe with a spider, can be something we heard, maybe something we smell. After this part of the brain, the amygdala, detects a threat, triggers some response, triggers fear response. How? The amygdala is going to talk to another part of the brain called the hypothalamus. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. This is what activates the fight-flight response, begins to affect us physically. The breathing will be intensified, your heart rate will go up, your body will get into fight-flight mode, cortisol is being released, amplifies even more the stress that you feel. Not only that, but then it will communicate with another part of the brain, the hippocampus, that makes you remember this experience in the future. So now, as all of this information travels and activates the different parts of the brain and the hormones, stress, you feel certain emotion. You have also the other part inside of you, the rational side. This will be connected with another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. Now, this is where the rational thought takes place. Even if something seems to be a threat, you do have this kind of a backup. Your brain says, should I really be afraid of this? Your amygdala is probably more powerful than your prefrontal cortex and probably will take over. The emotion will take over the rational. And this is your emotional response, and then you find yourself in certain pattern, probably most of your life. Our spiritual internal work to recognize the patterns of our reactions over time starts to create new pathways in our brain physically, begins to shift our reactive nature. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes repetition that eventually can shift our experience of old situations and can elevate us into a higher nature. As Rav Ashla calling it, elevating us to a second nature, where we can use our free will and choose the way that we want to respond and to communicate with the world around us.